Hi, it's me, Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut. How are you guys? It is hopefully going to be the first launch of November. This is going to be a SpaceX launch, not a Starlink launch, a SpaceX launch. For once, not Starlink. This is a GPS satellite. Have you ever used GPS? Have you ever used GPS? Well, how about a new satellite to help make it better? That's exactly actually what's going to be happening today. This is interesting. I have the mission control audio up. The SpaceX has their stuff up, and it was glitching for a second there. And for some reason, it was showing the rocket just translating sideways across the ground. Hopefully that's not at all what's happening. So let's find out what is going to be happening. In order to do that, I like to go to a website called everydayastronaut.com. You can click on pre-launch preview. And here, my friends, we can tell you exactly what's going to be going on today. So today's mission is GPS 3, technically SV04, or the fourth launch of GPS 3 satellites. So this is scheduled to take off here in 25 minutes, as you can tell above my head. It's GPS 3 taking off today, November 5th, 2020. This is as I said, this is the SV04, the fourth third generation global positioning system satellite named Sacagawea. So yeah, that's awesome. The launch provider, this is of course SpaceX. This is a SpaceX launch, but the customer who's paying for this ride, because don't forget, SpaceX is for this mission just getting paid to put something into space, right? Putting something into a very specific orbit. And the customer for this is the United States Space Force, who's actually handling the GPS rollout. So yeah. The rocket for this is the Falcon 9 Block 5. This is booster 1062.1. This is a brand new booster. Look at that. I feel like that's actually a rarity these days to see a rocket that has never flown before from SpaceX. That's honestly becoming more and more rare. So it'll be nice and shiny, brand new, not all marred up with re-entry and all that stuff. So it'll be taking off today from Space Launch Complex 40, SLC 40. Of course, as we say, you can tell that it's at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station and not Kennedy Space Center because it has S in front of LC. So Space Launch Complex, SLC, means it's at Cape Canaveral. And if it's just LC, Launch Complex, like 39 or Launch Complex 39A or 39B, that'd be at Kennedy Space Center, which are right next to each other. But it's just a fun delineation between the different grounds there. So the payload mass for this is pretty heavy, 3,880 kilograms, which is about 8,500 pounds. This is going out to medium Earth orbit, which is where GPS satellites live. So that's 20,000 kilometers. It's a little more than halfway out to like a geostationary orbit. Super cool. 55-degree inclination. So that's a little bit, let me think. The International Space Station is 51.6 degrees, so it's a little bit steeper than that even. The weather is currently 80% go, which is awesome. Will they be attempting to recover the first stage? Yes. There's plenty of margin in a Falcon 9 for medium Earth orbit mission of this mass to still recover the booster. The booster is going to land 635 kilometers downrange on SpaceX's autonomous spaceport drone ship. Of course, I still love you. The fairing recovery from water is expected. Go Mischief is deployed, but Go Mistree is still being repaired. So we'll see if they'll try and catch a half and then still swoop the other one up out of the water. What they'll do, but I guess we'll find out here later. So this will be the first launches with minor changes to the Merlin engine after the GPS abort in October. So this exact mission is why it got delayed. And it's the reason why we saw actually a stand down in a handful of new missions, because there is some small bits of acrylic being found, part of the anodizing process in the aluminum, or in maybe not aluminum, but in different pieces of the Merlin engine, ended up having a little bit of like a lacquer that was found clogging a single tiny little pore basically inside of the gas generator, and it was causing the potential for the engine to be actually prematurely turned on, or slight. We're talking about slight. We're talking about like milliseconds type of thing. But this is because it's an anomaly. They're like, you know what? We're gonna totally stand down on everything, check every engine out in our fleet, see which ones have this anomaly, and they ended up, repairing from there. So they replaced an engine on here. They replaced an engine on a few other boosters, and now they're ready to go with some of those tweaks. This is the 97th launch of a Falcon 9, the 64th booster landing, the 20th mission for SpaceX in 2020. Wow. So they'll easily beat an average of 2 a month this year, hopefully. Or should be able to. The 4th GPS Block III satellite to launch. This is the 39th landing attempt on, of course, I Still Love You, the drone ship. This is the 59th SpaceX launch from Slick 40, and this will be the 14th consecutive landing. So yes, this is a big deal. This is a big mission. These are important ones. But this is, of course, all of the information. If you guys need to learn more about this particular mission, just read through this here. It's got lots of great information about the Falcon 9, about the block changes, about all of the things you want to know. You can see these on our pre-launch previews and how they do everything. So everyone say thank you to Trevor Sesnick for writing this up, or as I call him now, Tremor Seismic. Everyone say thank you, Trevor. We really appreciate the hard work that the website crew does. You guys are awesome. So yes, if you want to check that out, be sure and do so. So guess what? I've got a real treat for us, because hopefully we actually have a telescope feed already here available to you guys from Cosmic Perspective. So I'm going to try and pull that up here. They were having a little bit of connection issues, but I'm going to give it 1 second here and it should refresh. Real quick, I need to say thank you to Starman Steve for becoming a member. I appreciate you, Steve. How are you? I hope you guys are doing great. Yeah, so let me see here. I'm still having sometimes I have to do this thing where I might throw it up here and that might fix it, but it might not either. So just give me a second here. Hopefully we'll get this up. It'd be great if we got their feed. It should be coming any second though. I'll keep my eyes on it here, and as soon as it pops up, I'll be able to have a live telescope feed of the launch and the rocket on the pad for you guys. So yeah, we will see. Okay, so Tabithus Stelly, thank you so much for the tip and for the 100 with dual underlines. I feel like you should probably really quickly, before we even get any further, I should tell you guys that you should be paying attention. Make sure you have the little bell hit right now. You're subscribed, because I will be dropping the ultimate rundown for you guys this weekend. It might be out tomorrow, if not for sure Saturday. We found an error today as I'm like literally posting the last little bit, uploading and doing all the stuff. We found one more little error. I want this to be as perfect as possible. It is a full rundown on Starship. It is the definitive guide to Starship. So if you ever, all of those questions that you might be wondering, like what are header tanks? What's different between Starship and Falcon 9? Why didn't they just scale up the Falcon 9? Why aren't they putting Raptor engines on the Falcon 9? How do the landing legs work on Starship? All of it. It is a definitive guide to Starship, running you through as much detail on a full overview of how the rocket works, how it's made, all of these things. It's lots and lots of information. It'll be information overload for you guys. I'll even sneak peek you guys. And lots of information. It'll be information overload for you. Excuse me. That was weird. So here, check this out. I'll give you a quick little sneak peek. This is a sneak peek of the timeline, so you guys can see just what exactly this thing is going to look like. It is a absolute beast. We have lots of awesome, fun graphics, like the cryogenic temperatures, just tons of stuff. I'm really, really excited for this. Reusing a lot of things that you may be familiar with, but I'm just really excited to get this one out. So, yeah, there you guys go. There's your sneak peek of what an hour long. By the way, it's an hour on the dot, exactly 1 hour. So I hope you guys are ready for that. I hope you're subscribed and you're ready and gonna be pinging the second it's ready to go. You guys are tuning in for that. I hear SpaceX's music is starting, so that's a good sign that they're getting the webcast going. I'm actually going to pull that up here. Let me get this all ready to go and kind of off to the side. Might be a little bit loud for you guys. Sorry about that. I'm still going to see if I can get the cosmic perspective feed up here soon. It does seem to be... Let me just double check my settings here. Okay, well, let me keep answering questions in the meantime, and hopefully we'll get that up in just a second. Musical Wolves says, good afternoon from Yellowstone National Park. If a city is built on the moon, will we see lights similar to what we see when looking at Earth from space? It would take quite a bit. So don't forget, light falls off if it was nighttime on the moon, which would, any spot on the moon is about 14 days of darkness. A whole day lasts, daytime lasts 14 hours, nighttime lasts 14 hours. During the day, of course, the moon is too bright, reflecting off of the sun. And after that, oh, here we go. We do have a live feed. Beautiful. Heck yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Ooh, look at that. I love that feed. Yeah, everyone say thank you to Cosmic Perspective. Find them on Twitter at Cosmic Perspective. Some of the best footage you will ever see of rockets. I guarantee it. If you're not following them, check it out. So, yeah, that's good enough. I could actually do a pointy end up, flaming end down check with this. But maybe we'll save it for just a little bit. But as far as... So don't forget, light falls off by the square inverse law. So for every time you double the distance, light gets a quarter as bright. So it would have to be a pretty darn bright light with a long exposure and pointed at the moon, but with a bare naked eye, I don't think you would see city lights on the moon unless there was a lot of them. They're extremely bright. But yeah, we'll have to see, I guess. Hopefully I'm around to let you know for sure. But yeah, good question though. Thank you, Anthony, for becoming a member. I really appreciate that. Let's see. This is from Eramus Device. I appreciate your tip. Thank you. We also had another membership from Joe Bennett. Thank you very much. Okay, let's see. This is Java Man. The Merlin engine issue shows why we need multiple launch providers, even though we all have our favorites. This is exactly right, Java Man. So SpaceX, think of how many thousands and thousands of times they've fired the Merlin engine, and out of nowhere, they see a new issue. That is unbelievable. So it has to mean there had to have been some kind of small change, but it is the reason why, that gets flagged. The second there's so much data on these vehicles, the second there's something out of family, something that's not happening right, boom, they're able to go, okay, because you have to think every rocket engine that leaves the factory, first, before it gets attached to the rocket, actually gets test fired in McGregor, Texas. So it goes from Hawthorne, California, which is LA area, gets trucked out to McGregor, test fired on a stand, taken back to LA, where it's then mated onto, for the Falcon 9, it's mated onto what's called the Octaweb, the base of the Falcon 9 rocket, where there's 9 of those attached together. So there's one test firing for the engine. Then that whole unit is sent back out to McGregor, where all 9 engines are lit, and the upper stage engine is lit on a stand too. So there's 2 firings for those engines. Then they normally do a static fire, where it's fired again out at the actual launch pad in Florida or Vandenberg or wherever it's launching from. So normally these engines are fired at least 3 times before they ever go to space. So think about it. We're coming up on this is the 97th launch of a Falcon 9. If you factor in each launch, firing each engine at least 3 times, it's a lot of times they've fired Merlin engines. And to be coming up with an issue now means that they are very dialed in. And it's a good thing that they, that they do all these tests, because it just makes for a more reliable piece of hardware. So this is from Musical Wolves. Will a fish jump out of the water again? I don't know, but I sure hope so. That was fantastic. Obscular. Memberships are part of YouTube here. So members get early access to videos, and can provide feedback. And they also get access to exclusive live streams once a month too, where we do Kerbal Space Program, some of those other fun things, and just answer you guys' questions. So it is a membership option here on YouTube. But there's that, and there's also Patreon. So whatever works for you guys. If you want to help support what I do, memberships and Patreon support really make a huge difference. And you're going to see all that play out here in this video. This video that I'm going to be releasing this weekend will blow your mind. And then you just wait, because you'll be perfectly geared up for serial number 8's flight and the continued evolution and progress of Starship. So this is it's going to be awesome. Let's tune in here now that they're going. I'm going to keep the live telescope feed up, so we have our eyes on the vehicle at all times. And let me know if you guys have any other questions, but I'm going to go quiet while they are, while they're going live, so that I can listen in and learn from them too. So here we go.
Good evening. It's Thursday, November 5th, and on your screen is a live view of Falcon 9 waiting its 6:24 p.m. Eastern Time launch from Cape Canaveral Air Force Station in Florida. My name is Jesse Anderson, and I'm a lead manufacturing engineer here at SpaceX. Welcome to our webcast coverage for GPS 3 Space Vehicle 4 for the Space Force. The U.S. Space Force satellites provide mission-critical global access, persistence, and awareness for our national security and have become vital to our global community and world economy. The Global Positioning System, or GPS payload, will provide a diverse range of navigation and timing services for both civil and military purposes. Today's payload will join 31 operational GPS satellites already on orbit and will help to serve over 4 billion users worldwide. And as you may recall, about a month ago, we stood down from Falcon 9's launch attempt of this mission due to an auto abort during engine ignition caused by early start behavior on 2 engines. This was a good abort by Falcon 9. The rocket did exactly as it was programmed to do when the data indicates something doesn't look as we expect it to right before liftoff. We sent those 2 engines to Texas for further testing, and it turned out that there was a blockage in a vent passage that leads to a relief valve on the gas generator. The blockage was caused by a masking lacquer residue that had hardened during the build process, but once we removed it, the gas generator was restored to normal behavior during subsequent testing. This was a really great find. It allowed our teams to fix something that is very subtle but can have some negative impact on the engine behavior, as well as allowed us to make sure that we can prevent this from happening again in the future. The 2 engines, which first exhibited the early start behavior on this booster, were replaced with new ones, which were tested again during our full duration static fire. Both engines look great, and the rocket is healthy for flight today. So let's take a closer look at the vehicle that will launch the GPS 3 satellite. On your screen is a view of Space Launch Complex 40 with Falcon 9, our 2-stage liquid-fueled launch vehicle getting ready for liftoff. Falcon 9 stands 229 feet or 70 meters tall, which is slightly taller than a 21-story building. The bottom 2/3 of the vehicle is a brand new first stage. Its job is to accelerate the vehicle all the way to the edge of space, where it will drop off the second stage carrying the payload. Tonight we will be attempting to recover the first stage on our drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You, and there you can see it on your screen right there in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. What's really exciting is that this specific booster is planned to support the GPS 3-5 mission next year, which will be the first time that the U.S. Space Force has agreed to fly a flight-proven booster. About 2.5 minutes into flight, the first and second stage will separate, and the second stage will ignite its single Merlin vacuum engine to carry the GPS satellite to a highly elliptical orbit. Separation from second stage will occur approximately 4,000 kilometers above Earth, and then the satellite will perform berms to raise its position to enter a circular MEO, or medium Earth orbit, and reach an apogee of approximately 20,200 kilometers above Earth. An apogee is basically just the furthest point from Earth, or the highest point that the satellite will reach in orbit. Inside of that structure on your screen, this is at the very top of the rocket, is where the GPS 3 satellite sits. And that structure is what we call the payload fairing, which is about 17 feet or 5 meters in diameter and about 43 feet or 13 meters tall. This payload fairing protects the satellite from aerodynamic heating, loads, and contamination during ascent. But once we get into the vacuum of space, we no longer need this protection, so we will jettison the fairing halves to save some weight as the second stage continues with the satellite to its targeted drop-off orbit. The fairing halves we are using today are new, but due to upgrades being made to our recovery boats, we will be attempting to pick these halves up out of the water using our recovery vessel, Miss Chief, today. And there is Miss Chief on your screen, heading to the pickup zone. The large trusted structure next to Falcon 9 is the transporter erector, or the TE, and you can see that on your screens to the left side of Falcon 9. The TE is used to roll the Falcon 9 to the launch pad and raises it to its vertical launch position, as well as routes power, fluid, and communication to both the rocket and the satellite. Now let's get a status update on the vehicle.
Good evening from the webcast desk here at SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California. I'm John Innsbrucker, Falcon 9 Principal Integration Engineer. It's been a quiet countdown during the day. working relatively few minor issues, the teams are ready to launch as we approach T-minus 8 minutes to liftoff. Now we're launching from Space Launch Complex 40 here in the dark of Cape Canaveral. This will be our third GPS launch, and all of them have been from this launch pad. Now the spacecraft team performed functional checkouts of the GPS satellite during the day, and the Falcon 9 team began their final checks of the launch vehicle at T-minus 2 hours. At T-minus 38 minutes, the team concluded their electronic go-no-go poll and gave the okay to proceed into propellant load and launch. The team then began loading propellant at T-minus 35 minutes. We load the propellants as close to launch as possible in order to keep them cold. Both the first and second stages use the same propellants, as the second stage Merlin engine is very similar to those on the first stage. This allows us to make the second stage like a shorter version of the first stage, and this commonality is one of the many reliability features in the Falcon design. Now our fuel is a refined form of kerosene known as RP1. Our oxidizer is super chilled liquid oxygen called LOX. I mentioned keeping the propellants cold. We chill the liquid oxygen as cold as we can get it, allowing us to load more into the booster. Now currently the second stage is fully loaded with RP1 fuel, and the first stage continues loading for another minute. Liquid oxygen is also loading on both the first and second stages right now. We're also loading helium into storage vessels on the first and second stages. During flight, we'll take this cold helium, run it through heat exchangers on the Merlin engines. That heats the helium up, and as it expands, we use it to fill the empty volume in the propellant tanks that's created as the engine pumps pull the propellant out of the stages. Now, you just may have heard a moment ago, we're inside of 7 minutes. We have begun engine chill in. That will cool the turbo pumps and avoid thermal shocks when we start them at T-minus 2 seconds as part of the ignition sequence of the Merlin engines. The spacecraft team has transitioned the GPS payload to internal battery power, occurring just as we came on the air at T-minus 13 minutes. That is their last major activity required before launch. Currently, the range is green, ready to support. The weather, the only thing we've really been watching is the ground winds. They've been marginal, but for the moment, everything continues to look good. We've got about 17 miles an hour from the east. That's within limits. Now, if we do have to call a hold on today's launch, we have a backup opportunity tomorrow with liftoff time scheduled a few minutes earlier at 6:20 p.m. Eastern Time.
There's also the ULM.
Now all systems continue to be go for a liftoff just past 6:24 p.m. Eastern Time.
That's interesting.
As we mentioned earlier, today's mission is for the U.S. Space Force launching the GPS-3 Space Vehicle 4 payload. Now we'll hear from the Air Force's Lieutenant Colonel Margaret Sullivan and Lockheed Martin's Tanya Ladwig for more information on tonight's payload.
Okay, we can learn more about that in a little bit here, but I wanted to kind of answer a few more questions. I'm seeing some really good ones. So on the beat, Short says, how long will it take SpaceX to tally the no-go poll? I see what you did there. The one thing I know that was not a serious inquiry, but the one thing about the SpaceX is so much of it's automated, right? They really just have this smooth automated system with very little human intervention. People are basically just there in case they see something that's like, oh, gotta stop that. Good question, though. Honey Badger Off-Road, Godspeed GPS. Thanks, Tim. You're welcome. I'm excited to see this baby fly. These are some expensive satellites, so we really, it's awesome that they trust SpaceX with their precious cargo. Agricola, how many boosters does SpaceX have in their fleet? Oh, man. Trevor might be able to answer. Trevor, how many are actually active? And the most flown, I saw another answer. The most flown is 6, I think. But I think they probably have about 10 to 12 active or flyable boosters still. I don't really know for sure. There's a handful, that's for sure. Yeah, I think people are keeping track of that somewhere. I haven't seen that number lately. Yeah. That's pretty nuts that they actually have a fleet of boosters now. I love it. Brian Clausen, how's it going? Good evening, Tim. We always appreciate all you do, and your minions do for us. Well, thank you. The minions are kicking butt. Thank you, guys.
What we're watching right now is the strongback has just retracted to the pre-launch position. It's about 2 degrees from the rocket. At liftoff, hydraulics will move the strongback the rest of the way back about 45 degrees from the rocket. Now, first stage fuel loading did complete at T-minus 6 minutes.
Strongback retracted.
We're continuing to wait for first stage liquid oxygen load to finish up in about half a minute here, followed a minute later by second stage completion. Now, a minute before liftoff, you'll hear the announcement Falcon 9 is in startup. That means the rocket's own internal computers are controlling the launch countdown on the rocket. Once the engines are confirmed to be at full power, the flight computer on the second stage will then command the ground hold downs to release the rocket right at T0. The satellite team continues to monitor status and health of the GPS 3 located inside the fairing that you can see on the screen. And right now, all systems are go on the satellite. The range is green for launch. And we have, it sounds like in the background, we heard that stage 1 lock closeout complete, so we're on time. And the good news is the weather is looking good still. Ground winds are in limits, upper altitude winds are good. So as a reminder though, if we don't have a launch today, we have a backup opportunity tomorrow with liftoff time scheduled 4 minutes earlier than tonight. But right now at 2 minutes and 20 seconds and counting, everything continues to go well. Waiting now to hear stage 2 LOX load completion.
Looks good. I should probably take this quick moment to remind you guys that first off, pointy end is up, flamey end is down. Fantastic 2 shots on screen to show you guys that. But also that is not smoke that you see. This is a good clear night to be able to see the condensation pouring off the rocket. Friendly reminder that if you went up and touched it, the liquid oxygen inside of that tank is minus 207 degrees Celsius. It's extremely cold, and it interacts with the humidity in the air. Just like, you know, when you open a freezer in a cold day, you see all of that vapor come out, that moisture. So that's the same thing we're seeing here.
Off pressure, and that'll create the large white cloud that you see around the strung back and maybe the rocket, depending how the wind's blowing. That's nominal. That's what you see right there. That's just us bringing everything back down the line as we're closing out propellant and pressure loading on the Falcon 9.
Sweet.
Next activity, we're waiting for the call out that Falcon 9 is in startup.
Be right around 1 minute.
Falcon 9's in startup.
There we go.
Falcon 9's in startup.
There it is. Computers have taken over the Falcon 9. We're pressurizing first and second stage tanks for launch. Waiting for final go.
The mission director, stage go for launch.
Mission director has given the go for flight. Everything continues to look good. Pressurizing the tanks one final time here to get ready for liftoff. But right now at T-minus 30 seconds and counting, all systems are go for the launch of Falcon 9 with GPS 3 space vehicle number 4.
Here we go, guys. There's a good chance that the feed on the right will actually be ahead of SpaceX's feed, so let's tune in there. That might be about 7 seconds early.
Seconds.
Oh, the other day it wasn't.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3,
There it is.
2,
Yes.
1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff. Go Falcon. Go GPS.
Yes. Looking good.
Vehicle is pitching downrange. Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
Right on time. First attempt. Well, not first attempt today.
30 seconds into flight, propulsion says the Merlin 1D engines are nominal. We're on trajectory and preparing to throttle down in preparation for maximum dynamic pressure.
Wow. Look at Ryan's shot there. Beautiful.
And we're heading into the throttle bucket as we power down the Merlin engines. And throttling back up now. And when the engine's back up at full power,
Supersonic.
and we have gone past Mach 1.
Yeah, baby.
Waiting now for Max Q call out.
The vehicle is experiencing maximum aerodynamic pressure.
Guidance engineer reports we're passing through the period of maximum aerodynamic pressure called Max Q. From here on, as the speed picks up, the atmospheric density decreases and the loads are reduced on the Falcon 9 vehicle.
Condensation feels so good.
Propulsion power continues to look good. The trajectory looks good.
MVAC engine chill started.
The engine chill in call out on the MVAC second stage engine indicates we've begun chilling that turbopump like we did with the first stage engines, getting ready for ignition of the upper stage engine. Now coming up in just over 30 seconds, the usual 3-sequence event that'll happen in rapid succession. Main engine cutoff will shut down the 9 Merlin 1D engines you can see glowing there in the night sky. Stage separation, and then we'll get startup of the second stage engine.
Wow. Tanner, I would probably be looking outside. You might actually be able to catch this from North Carolina. You might want to be poking your head out there.
Nice view from the ground camera looking up at the 9 Merlin 1D engines on the business end of the Falcon 9 first stage.
Oh, that is awesome. Let's hear it for Ryan, too, with Cosmic Perspective for nailing that telescope feed, too.
Stage separation confirmed.
And while I've got it up, I might as well. Wow.
MVAC startup.
Here's first stage telemetry up there for you guys.
So we've had a good separation. MVAC up on power. On the left screen, the first stage continuing to coast downrange as it begins to deploy those large titanium grid fins. Trajectory continues to look right down the middle.
Both stages are following nominal trajectories.
Guidance confirms we're on nominal trajectory with both stages.
Acquisition of signal, Maryland.
Maryland reports they've got signal from the second stage. Next event coming up is payload fairing separation.
Fairing separation confirmed.
That's important. I do want to show you
nice
guys Ryan
from
still
the
got
camera
it.
looking forward.
Ryan's still tracking it. Just that little tiny dot. That's the upper stage.
Separating. Everything continuing to go well on this mission. 3 minutes and 42 seconds into flight. First stage continuing to coast to apogee, headed downrange. Second stage engine at full power. Everything's looking good with the MVAC engine. Right now, trajectory heading us to where the Bermuda ground station can hear us. We've heard the call out, acquisition of signal. Bermuda now getting the telemetry from the Falcon 9 second stage. So 4 minutes, 8 seconds into flight, everything going well on the flight of Falcon 9 with GPS 3.
Yeah, there is a chance
Both
that
stages continue to follow nominal trajectories.
Ryan might be able to catch the entry burn. If it's a clear enough night and you're not shooting through clouds, there were a lot of clouds, but there's a chance he might be able to get that entry burn.
And we just passed T plus 4 minutes and 23 seconds, and that's actually when the first stage reaches apogee of 120 kilometers, almost 400,000 feet. At stage separation, the first stage velocity is about 2,200 meters per second or 5,000 miles per hour. So right after stage separation, the first stage, still moving at such a high velocity, continues to raise its altitude as it coasts for a couple of minutes. Basically, the first stage almost doubles its altitude from stage separation, which occurred at about 69 kilometers or 226,000 feet, to when it reaches apogee, and then it starts its return back to Earth. And again, apogee is the highest point or the furthest that it is away from Earth in the trajectory of the first stage. Now, the next major milestone that you'll be able to see on your screen is the first stage's entry burn. For the entry burn, we relight the center E9 engine, and then partway through, we relight the E1 and E5 engines so that we have a total of 3 M1D engines, helping to slow the vehicle down as it passes back into the Earth's atmosphere.
I will keep
Just
my
about
eyes
40
on.
seconds away from that entry burn beginning. Today's entry burn should last about 27 seconds long.
Both stages continue to follow nominal trajectories.
And you heard that call out that both stages are looking good. T plus 6 minutes. We're about 20 seconds away from that entry burn on first stage. And it is nighttime over there on the East Coast, so hard to see that first stage on the left-hand screen, but once entry burn begins, it should light up that screen. We should be able to see first stage pretty well.
Yeah, that'll be any second here. There's a chance Ryan might catch it, so I'm keeping my eye open on that feed too. And if he does get it, I will turn it back on.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
And there's that entry burn starting up.
Stage FTS is saved. Stage 1.
He's got it a little bit. Look at that.
You could see the plume started off small and it got a little larger, and that is because we started with one single engine and added a couple engines for a total of 3 for this entry burn.
Stage 1 entry burn shut down.
That's impressive.
And that concludes the entry burn. Next up, we do have a couple major milestones happening back to back. The start of the landing burn for first stage, followed immediately afterwards by SECO 1 on second stage. And SECO, which stands for second engine cutoff, is where we shut down the MVAC engine to allow the second stage to coast, which preserves the fuel until we need it for the final burn to take us to our targeted orbit for the GPS 3 satellite. Then about 25 seconds.
Cape, stage 1 expected.
Then about 25 seconds after SECO 1, we'll hopefully have a nice view of the first stage touching down on, of course, I Still Love You. And there's that drone ship on your left-hand screen.
Stage 2 has entered terminal guidance.
That'll be too far for Ryan to be able to capture it. We'll probably be over the horizon.
Just about 20 seconds away from those two events. Again, the landing burn, followed by SECO 1 on second stage, just a couple seconds after that landing burn begins.
Stage 2 FTS is saved.
Stage 1 landing burn.
Hopefully we'll get a feed of that here in a second.
And SECO.
Here we go.
There we've had SECO waiting for confirmation of good orbit as first stage returns to Earth.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy.
Yeah, baby, come on.
Nominal parking orbit.
There's good orbit, and at the same time, we have touchdown of our Falcon 9 on, of course, I Still Love You. And again, that did happen at the same time, so we did have SECO and good orbit of our second stage.
2 expected.
And there you can see on your left-hand screen, first stage landed on, of course, I Still Love You. This marks the 16th Falcon 9 landing just this year and the 64th of all time. And we're looking forward to seeing this booster take its second flight on the next GPS mission next year. Now, the second stage vehicle has now entered its first coast phase, which will last about 54 minutes, and we will light that MVAC engine for a second time shortly after T plus 1 hour and 3 minutes. So we're going to take a quick break, and as always, we leave you with an animation so that you can keep an eye on where that second stage is throughout the coast phase. So we'll see you back here at T plus 1 hour and 2 minutes.
They're making this look too easy, guys. Honestly, how long did they say? Hold on. All right, my friends. Looks like we got some time to answer some questions. I hope you guys are ready. We have a lot to catch up on. So first off, that was spectacular. We saw, of course, a good orbital insertion. That's the important part, is getting this extremely expensive GPS satellite on the desired orbit and exactly on track, because you can't be fudging that. It has to be absolutely perfect. So that's awesome. And then, of course, we saw a clean landing, which is good because this is a brand new booster. It seems like these days we have more surprises with brand new boosters than the reflown ones. The ones that have flown over and over are the ones that seem to have the least problems anymore. The term flight proven really, honestly, I almost feel like is proving to be more reliable and seems to be like almost, I would rather fly in a flight proven booster because it's already done it once. It proves that everything works together. So that was awesome. So dang, congratulations, SpaceX. You guys are seriously making this stuff look way too easy. Yes, we are going to really quickly, for those of you interested, we do have 10% off today of the full flow stage combustion cycle hoodie. If you guys want to help support what I do, help me get my butt down to Texas as soon as serial number 8 is ready to fly. A fun way you can do that is by going to shop.everydayastronaut.com. You can take 10% off of the new full flow stage combustion cycle hoodie, which has fun little things all over it, fun little Easter eggs hidden throughout the hoodie. So it's super awesome. These are really premium things that I'm really excited to share with you guys. You can go 10% off today by using coupon code launch day, all one word, all lowercase, And yeah, you can get that. We also have little tiny human clothes like these. We do have this full float station combustion cycle onesie. We also have the Future Martian 2.0 onesie, Future Martian Society onesie, and all these other ones for your little tiny, if you have little small humans in your life, you can get them some cool stuff here too at shop.everydayastronaut.com. So yeah, if you guys want to help support what I do, head over there, find some cool stuff, put it on your wish list for the holidays this year. And yeah, all that stuff does matter, does help me a lot in order to get to do what I do. So if you guys want to help me do it, that shop around, or again, of course, you can thank. Sorry, that's awesome. Yeah, Cosmic Perspective, great work. And if you want to help me pay Cosmic Perspective for these awesome feeds and pay Andrew to help with these live feeds and everything, and get exclusive access to our Discord channel and some live streams and lots of other fun stuff, consider going over to patreon.com/everydayastronaut. Yeah, I'll be doing a lot of like behind the scenes stuff in Boca Chica with serial number 8. The patrons have seen way too much of me lately, as we've been doing way too much stuff getting ready for this mega video about Starship. This is going to be the best video I've made to date. And I do feel like I say that often, which is probably a good thing. It does mean that the quality is continually going up, but I promise you will still learn something, even if you are an expert Starship watcher. I think there's still going to be stuff in this video that you can learn and take away, but more importantly, this can be a good resource for you to be able to show your friends. If you have friends or people that have those questions that are just like, I just don't get it. What is Starship? What's new about it? What's so exciting? This is going to be your one-stop definitive guide to Starship. It'll be coming out this weekend, at least by this weekend. I don't know for sure when, maybe tomorrow, but for sure by Saturday. Yeah, Casper Stanley's watched it 4 times by now. Yes, because I keep making tweaks. Oh, and each tweak recently, until I got it all finally fully rendered out, takes about 5 hours to render it out. So, and that's even with a beast computer. So this is a big one. Lots of graphics, lots of After Effects, lots of fun things. So I can't wait for you guys to see it, and I hope that you're ready. All right, so let's answer some of you guys' questions here. We have lots to get through here. So Max, hey Tim, my daughters say hi again. Hey Max, my oldest daughter wants to know if you are thinking of doing pink or purple colored shirts and sweatshirts. I haven't really thought too much about that, but if pink or purple is your favorite color, we might have to find something to fit that. My personal style tends to be black or dark gray. But yeah, we can maybe find something that fits that aesthetic too. Yeah, we'll maybe get the gears turning, the design gears turning. But yeah, thanks Max for watching with your daughters. I really appreciate that. Tyler says, hey Tim, if diamond nuclear batteries work, do you think Elon will use them in Teslas and for electric turbo pumps on his rockets? So, I don't know too much about diamond nuclear batteries. We talked about it a little bit on Our Ludicrous Future. That's the podcast that I do every week. If you guys want to know all of the stuff that I talk about, or if you want to learn basically what's happening each week, we do talk a lot about rockets, a lot about futurism, a lot about EVs and renewable energy, and just rockets every week. If you want to hear me talk about rockets, be sure you're subscribed to Our Ludicrous Future. But we did talk about the diamond nuclear batteries. I don't know. A lot of battery technology is never this like breakthrough. There's rarely just some, we have this thing and now it's 100 times better or whatever. There's always some issue with scaling or manufacturing or something in that vein that I don't get excited about battery technology until I see it like actually in production, because otherwise you're just prone to be kind of let down. But the big problem with batteries, don't forget the Raptor engine, in order to spin the pumps, takes about 10,000 horsepower. It takes an insanely powerful motor. So in order to produce that out of an electric motor, you're talking about some massive motors that add a lot of weight and a lot of batteries to power it that also add a lot of weight. And the problem with batteries is they don't decrease their weight as they're burnt. Their dry mass, or their wet mass and dry mass, or the amount of energy discharged, they don't decrease as you burn them. And that's actually a bad thing. That's one of the things about the rocket equation and how rockets work is as they drain fuel, they get lighter. There's less mass to push around. Therefore, the same amount of thrust does more work. And if a battery is discharging, it doesn't actually get any lighter. So it's not, it's not necessarily that ideal to use batteries. So I don't think Elon will really ever use electric turbo pumps to feed the engines. Although when I interview him in a couple weeks or whenever that ends up working out, I'm going to ask him about using electric pumps to repress like COPVs or repress header tanks on the fly. See if that's some kind of option. So, Raptor takes 100,000 horsepower. So per engine. So think about how big an electric motor. So say a normal big old, P100D Tesla motor. It's, this big, weighs a couple 100 pounds. Say that puts out 1,000 horsepower, which it doesn't. You would need 100 of those per Raptor engine. It's just not scalable. So yeah. Happy Hacking Video Blog says, will serial number 8 fly before they end counting voting? At this point, who knows? But, better to do it right than to do it wrong. That's my theory on everything. Better do it right the first time, right? And especially when it comes to democracy. Better do it right the first time. We don't want to have to redo anything. So, Cottlesworth. Instead of throttling the center core engines on Falcon Heavy, why don't they just kill them after liftoff until the side boosters separate? They're still you could essentially throttle by. Okay, here's the problem. If you're to relight an engine, it's going to require TTEB, which is triethyl aluminum triethyl borane, and that's stored in a separate bottle. It's a separate starting fluid ignition. It's more risky and requires more fluid, more parts to relight engines, especially over and over and over, than to just throttle down. And so you actually gain efficiency. So say a vehicle's accelerating at 2 Gs straight up. Your only actual true acceleration is 1 G. So say it's accelerating with 2 Gs of force. Your real acceleration is only 1 G. If you add 50% to that, so say you're accelerating at 3 Gs, but 2 true Gs over gravity's 1 G constant, you actually double the amount of work being done while only increasing the thrust by 50%. I don't know if that makes any sense, but the point is you can actually, by having the vehicle accelerate faster, by just throttling down and not necessarily, slowing way down, you gain a lot of efficiency, or you can gain. You fight gravity drag, that is kind of a term that they say, or gravity losses. So by throttling down, they're still accelerating and able to maintain constant acceleration or a high amount of acceleration, but they reserve some of that fuel in the center core. The real best option is to do cross fuel feed, where you have the side core, just like in Kerbal Space Program, you have those fuel pipes you can pipe in. But if you're able to drain the outer cores first entirely and then leave the center core fully fueled, that's the most efficient thing you can do. And you can still have all of those engines running. Because otherwise, if you kill the engines, you're basically lugging around dead weight. They're not performing work. But that's kind of a long/short answer to a very complicated bit of rocket science. Great question, Cottlesworth. I hope I kind of answered it a little bit. Harvey Jones, hey Tim, loving the stream as usual. When is the new music and Russian engine video coming? Any chance a sneak peek of them while we wait? So new music, you've already heard the 27 Merlins. That's what's coming out next. That is available on YouTube here, so you've already heard that, but that will be up on Spotify. I'm waiting to get the final track back from the mastering, and then after that, I don't know. I've got like 8 more songs I probably need to just send out and have it all looked at and tweaked. And the Russian engine video is going to be coming out after the Ultimate Guide to Starship. So we pushed the Ultimate Guide. So in the middle of waiting for peer review, I was like, I got to get a video out. So I was like, I'm going to make a quick video about Starship, turn into an hour-long deep dive. Of course, that's all I can do anymore. And so I pushed back the Russian rocket engine, the Soviet rocket engine video until that is done. Yeah. So, that's a great question, though. So hopefully you have checked out the music and the sneak peeks of videos. You don't have to wait, because if you're a Patreon, you've seen it way too many times. We've got bingo. What was the bingo? What did I do? Sorry, Discord is playing bingo with things that I say too often. What was it? John Connery, how pumped am I to see Rocket Lab catch a rocket? That was huge news today. Rocket Lab will be moving something ahead of schedule. In the aerospace world, that is extremely unusual. They were going to be trying to begin recovery attempts of their first stage of their Electron rocket on the 17th flight. They moved it up to the 16th flight, so that's the next one that'll be in just a week and a half or 2 weeks from now. Like a week and a half, I think the 16th. So it's going to be that's awesome. So the first attempt for Rocket Lab won't be catching it with a helicopter. It'll just be recovering it in the ocean. They're trying to splash it down safely under parachutes and then recover it and make sure everything looks good and see how it does. And do that a couple times, 2 or 3 times before they try to catch it with a helicopter. You know, learn what it's actually doing as it's re-entering, make sure everything's safe and sound and all that stuff. So I'm very excited to see that it's moving forward ahead of schedule. That's awesome. That is awesome. Malawai 2 says, Tim, sorry for the complicated question, but how can the election result interfere with the Artemis program? So just a friendly, it's a perfectly valid question and you're absolutely on topic, but I just want to remind people in chat that yes, politics are very hot right now in the United States. This is our time to distract ourselves from that, come together and celebrate spaceflight and celebrate humanity, doing big things in space. So I just politely ask that if you wouldn't mind keeping generally the things clear of the election process and things like that. But this is a fantastic question. So that is one of the problems with NASA. So we've talked about that in the, NASA versus SpaceX video, the older one, or the SLS versus Starship, that NASA is beholden to Congress and has big sways in what happens in the programs with an administration change. So there's a good chance, if Biden is the next president, that he will change out who the NASA administrator is. Currently, the NASA admin was a Trump appointee, and Jim Bridenstine has been phenomenal. I will absolutely petition and raise awareness if that time comes that Biden is considering reassigning that position, because I think Bridenstine has done a phenomenal job. I think he's done a great job of being bipartisan and focusing. He's got Boeing. He's been whipping Boeing's butt into shape. He's also been pushing for commercial partners really hard and setting up new commercial partnerships for the Artemis program. I don't think, so here's the thing, that one of Bridenstine's big pushes is getting a lot of, so people that are mad about SLS, why do you keep buying parts? That's one of the things that Jim did that was actually pretty brilliant, is by fast tracking and signing checks and contracts for Artemis, for SLS, it actually might get beyond the point where, hey, we actually have this paid for. This is already bookmarked. We already have the parts coming. You better not cancel it. And it might be a lot harder to cancel now. So this is why NASA is so volatile, is because they are beholden to presidents by administration changes, beholden to Congress and the Senate. And luckily, in the past, this administration has pushed for a lot of checks to be written that might actually pay out to seeing this program survive an administration change. I really hope so, because, of course, the Commercial Crew program survived going from the Obama era into the Trump presidency. And I would really hope to see that same thing happen with Artemis going into the next administration, whether it be now or in 4 years. I really hope that Artemis continues to make progress, because we've seen that carpet pulled out from underneath us way too many times. So, DK Johnson 09, is the space shuttle still my favorite vehicle? I don't recall ever saying it was my favorite vehicle. It's one of them. I love it. It's a beautiful vehicle. I'm more nostalgic about it than anything, but I do not know if I would consider it ever my favorite vehicle. It's up there though. It is a great vehicle. It's very cool. I don't think it's my favorite. My current, I really don't think I can have a favorite vehicle. I just don't think I do. Different rockets evoke different emotions. Like when I look at some of these old Soviet rockets, especially now that I've finished the research on the Soviet rocket engine video, I have like strong emotions towards some of those rockets. The Energia and the Buran, I mean, just amazing pieces of machinery. The N1, amazing piece of machinery. The R7 family, amazing piece of machinery that's elegantly simple and beautiful. But I love the space shuttle. I love the Saturn V. I love the Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy. I have a certain love for the Delta IV Heavy. Like, this beautiful thing is just like, warms my heart for some reason. The Electron, I mean, I don't know, a Falcon Heavy, I don't know. I don't know how. I don't know. I don't know if I can pick a favorite. Jeremy Matthews, thanks Tim for the great stream and content. Can't wait for the Starship video. Good, because I can't wait either. This has been one of those I've been working way too hard on it, way too many hours, and I'm ready for it to be out because I think you guys, this will be a great resource. And I think you guys are going to absolutely love it. Mike is sweet. What's the most a booster has reflown? I think we're at 6 flights so far. I think is the most we've seen a booster fly. We haven't seen a 7th yet, right? By the way, Lanchlin in our Discord, haven't I said that Falcon Heavy is my favorite? I probably have. I have favorites that change from day to day. I don't know. Yeah, 6 is the record. Thank you, Discord. Thank you, Discord, as Joe would say. Yeah, 6 is the record right now. Plastic Pinocchio. Hi, Tim. I never understood if people can actually see the stars and the Milky Way in space. All the footage of space is as black as it gets. Is the human eye good enough to distinguish stars in space? Great question. Well, I kind of answered that in a recent launch, but it's always worth repeating because it has to do with one of my favorite subjects, photography. So images that you normally see in space, right? You're looking at a vehicle and maybe, an EVA. Let's say it's an EVA on the International Space Station. You're seeing, most of the time, someone in broad daylight, illuminated by the sun. And you're seeing the Earth below illuminated in broad daylight. That is daytime. That is the same daytime sunlight. It's actually a little brighter because you don't have atmospheric occlusion. You don't have clouds. You don't have any atmosphere dimming the daylight. The sun is extremely bright, so the cameras are exposed to daytime. It's just like daytime out here on Earth. The only difference is there's no atmosphere to cut back on that daylight. So therefore, you're not going to see stars when your pupils are dilated. And the same reason you're not going to see stars when a camera is set to f/16, 1/500th of a second, and ISO 100. It's just too dark. You're exposing for daylight. You're exposing the camera to not have your subject be bright white. If you're to conversely, when you're in the shadow, if you want to have, say, say they're working on the ISS and they have helmet lights and lights on the International Space Station, you do have to, lower your shutter speed, lower your f-stop, and raise your ISO in order to make it bright enough to see those things. But that's still quite a bit brighter than stars in the sky. Now, if you want us to get stars in the sky, it's the same thing up in space as it is down here on Earth again. Because again, the only difference is the atmosphere is in between us and space. So if you're in space, you look out a window and your eyes aren't dilated, not dilated, the opposite. If your eyes are dilated, if your pupils are not closed up, and you're looking at, say, the cupola, you would have as good of a view, if not better, in space because there's no atmospheric occlusion. But it's the same thing. Your eyes have to adjust. And in the same way, a camera has to have its settings to be able to expose for those dimmer lights because those stars are a lot dimmer than the sun. It's just a simple difference in exposure. So most of the time when you're seeing pictures in space of spacecraft or people on the moon or people in orbit, it's daytime. It's just simply the same daytime as it is down here on Earth, and it's the same thing at night. You just have to expose longer in order to make those stars visible. Great question. I hope that I answered the question. Try Lambda Delta asks if the sun is black in space. No, it is extremely bright. same as it is here. All right, this is from let's see here. This is from Musical Wolves Glowfish. I'm not entirely sure what that's in reference to, but thank you, Musical Wolves. Maybe those are little stickers. Those might be, and a purple mustache. I'm assuming that's also a sticker. I'm very confused right now. Thank you, Mr. Toxic Hot Dog. The Hustle Mallard says, hi, Tim. I just wanted to say hello and thank you for what you've done. Your work has been great help in exciting others about space, myself included. I wanted to give you this as my many thank you. Well, thank you so much, The Hustle Mallard. I appreciate the compliments and the feedback. That means a lot to me. I'm just trying to make the content that I want to watch myself. I want to make the content that when I see questions asked often, or if I'm trying to get, explain something to my parents or my niece or my nephews or my sibling, or people that aren't in love with space like me, I want to be able to provide resources that are like, hey, here's why this is exciting. Here's why you can actually get excited about something in the morning and not be like, oh, it's Tuesday. It's like, oh, there's a rocket launching and this is awesome. Or there's a rocket being developed, or there's a moon mission coming up. There's people going to space. There's a lot of really exciting things. So yeah, thank you, The Hustle. John, I want to see SpaceX. I want to see a SpaceX launch, but I want it to be a return to launch site landing. How can I find RTLS launches specifically? I want to hear the boom. Yeah, the sonic boom is worth hearing. If you go to our pre-launch previews, you can see it won't give you that much time ahead of time. I don't know another really good way of actually knowing upcoming launches besides maybe. That's true. Oh, you're right. The cupola is turned towards Earth. It's actually always turned towards Earth. Let me think about this here. Let me think about this. Does next space flight show far enough out? The best way to know, I mean, just look for an upcoming launch, like using an app like Next Space Flight or something. And it has to be a low Earth orbit mission or a Falcon Heavy mission. And then chances are you'll see a low Earth or a return to launch site landing. But it's not always true. The Starlink missions are low Earth orbit, but they're extremely high energy, so they still have to land on the drone ship. Nextrocket.space. There we go. That's a good one that has, and rocketlaunch.live. We'll show you, and just you might have to click through to see which ones. I don't know if there's a good way to filter out which ones will be returned to launch site, but yeah. Andrew King says, hey Tim, do you think we'll someday get a launch vehicle that can launch in any weather? We already have that pretty much. The Soyuz can launch in pretty much anything. They launch it in snow and lightning. You know, the Soyuz is the honey badger of space. It don't care. It just does whatever. So yeah, I think realistically, that is a huge goal of SpaceX and for Elon, for Starship, is to make it so it can be launched pretty much no matter what. And as a matter of fact, in general, a rocket has to contend with weather a lot less than an airplane, and airplanes launch all the time. But they're just usually riding such a thin line of what's physically possible that they have to have all the conditions right, especially when you're talking about a rocket like the Falcon 9, which is the finest rocket. So it's width to height ratio. It's by definition the finest rocket. So it's extremely prone to having bending momentum or bending energy as it crosses through different wind shears, because it's screaming at, when it gets into the upper atmosphere, there's big jet streams that are going opposite directions, and it can go from one to another instantly, basically. And so it has a very limiting factor on what kind of weather it can launch through. So other vehicles that are going to be more robust, Starship, having made out of stainless steel and, higher pressure overall, it's sitting at 5 or 6 bar as opposed to 3 or 4. It might be just less susceptible to conditions like that. So yeah, the answer is we kind of have it with the Soyuz, and hopefully in the future going forward, it just gets easier and easier. Meryl Sky says, why is the fairing catch by the ship better than a fairing being pulled out of the ocean? That's a great question. I think at this point, it's mostly like, if you're going out to catch or to pick up the fairing, you might as well catch it for free, because it saves the step of getting it out of the water, saves any additional refurbishment, because the whole thing is it is salt water, right? And these are, multi-million-dollar pieces of carbon fiber that need to be extremely good. They can't break. You still need to go over them, all the details, and make sure that they're safe to fly again. So it's just probably less refurbishment, less things need to be considered if you're catching it out of the air as opposed to scooping it out of the water. So yeah, I think it's like basically your cost isn't, I feel like this is just going back. Oh, they probably don't have telemetry on it right now because I feel like it's just going backwards sometimes. But yeah, I think it's basically, if you can catch it for free, pretty much you might as well, right? Good question. From Carl's Creek, rockets and tequila. Order your Tesla tequila ASAP, but I'm not joking. Thanks for what you do. Is Tesla tequila actually up? Tesla tequila. I haven't seen anything new because there's been talk of Tesla tequila for a while. But yeah, I will buy some of that and put it on the shelf as soon as it's available. As soon as it's available, maybe that's something I'll talk to Elon when I see him. I'll be like, hey, let me in on that. Technical Fool. Remember the 5th of November, gunpowder treason rockets? That's a good point. Yeah, it is the 5th of November, and we definitely got some basic gunpowder. Wait. Teslakeela.tesla.com. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Wait. I'm going to order this. Oh, maybe I won't. That's rather expensive. Jeez. That's insane. But, you know, for the memes, right? It can sit on the shelf. Wow. I don't know. I don't know about this. Wow. It's expensive, guys. It's expensive. I don't know. At $250. I don't know about this. Let's keep answering questions. Go Falcon from Brisbane. Sorry that I totally missed that because it's been going great. Philip Moyer. Hey there, Tim. Have some more coin for the 15-kilometer slush fund and keep up the great work. Well, thank you so much. I can't wait. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be absolutely awesome. Yeah. I can't wait to bring you guys the coverage. We're going to have some awesome stuff for you guys. Joseph Dale, thank you so much for your tip or for your membership. And Philip, I will not disappoint you. Trifid, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Musical Wolves, what happened to the small meteor that was headed to Earth? Also, is anyone lagging a bit at 480p? I can't answer that part for you guys, unfortunately. But, you know, meteors pass by Earth all the time. I feel like occasionally they make headlines and they get kind of blown out of proportion. So I'm sure it was just a normal flyby. Sasha, thank you so much for becoming a member. Richard Jenkins, how reusable are the satellites? Why not make them like tiny space shuttles like they did in India? I know it's harder to fit them in the nose, but imagine satellites that can re-land and redeploy. Well, recovering something from space is extremely hard. I know that sounds hard or like hard to fathom, but these are designed to last 15 years. A GPS satellite that's over 15 years old, or most satellites that are too old, are totally outdated technology. So you're better off just putting something new up there. You know, the new train of thought is put it up cheap, small, light, and just make it good enough for now, like Starlink, and then just replace it and let it only have a lifespan of about 5 years. Because, recovering it is just very, very, very hard. We'll talk about that in the Starship video because we talk about it quite a bit. Space Guy Ty, where's a good place to watch a SpaceX launch? I'm planning on seeing Crew 1. I have a video for you called Where to See Rockets Launch in Florida. Take a look. There's an article version too. But if you search Where to See Rockets in Florida, I've got a video outlining every different position. It's a little bit older, but the knowledge is still good. So definitely check that out. I think, honestly, the beach is great. I've only ever seen stuff from the press site and the beach, pretty much. And the beach is fun. The beach is down in Cocoa Beach or Cape Canaveral area. It's fun. Just looking out on the beach, watching a rocket go off is gorgeous. But yeah, other than that, Titusville is a nice, safe bet. Jetty Park is great, I hear. So yeah. Cryptic Airsoft Big Country says, it was a beautiful launch from my perspective from Tampa. Sweet. That's so crazy, from Tampa on the other side of Florida. You can see it. That is awesome. Mike Crop. Thanks, by the way, Cryptic. I appreciate you. Mike Crop. Hey, Tim, do you want to be a guest host on the official live coverage for a SpaceX event? I would consider it, if they want someone to be just obnoxiously excited about things and explain things in my weird ways. I probably would consider it. I don't really have a huge desire to do that. It sounds fun, but I really like doing this with you guys where I can directly answer your questions. I feel like it'd be hard to integrate that into a SpaceX feed, but yeah, that'd be super fun though. I'd do it once, probably. Christopher says, managed to see MECO, separation, and relight super clearly from my place in Gainesville. It was awesome. That is super cool. Pretty jealous. If you could even see separation and relight. That's amazing. Thanks for sharing, Christopher, and thanks for saying hi. Josh Lincoln, just saw second stage from Raleigh shoot across the sky. Thank you for the tip. Love everything you do, Tim. Thank you so much, Josh. That's super cool. That'd be really fun to be able to look out and see that. I feel like so many people might see it and not even know what it is and not even be able to appreciate that, because that is awesome. Jaroslav says, yay for tracking shot and first stage telemetry. I'm glad the first stage telemetry, I didn't even notice if we were still on track with the landing or how closely it timed out, but I was just excited to see that it landed. So yeah, thank you for that. I really appreciate it. Taco 5150. 5150 is a fun amp. Why was the engine vibrating at 8 minutes and 20 seconds? Let's take a real quick look here. 8 minutes and what is it? 8:20. So when it shuts down, there we go. You see the wobble. So as it shuts down, that's a good question. That the nozzle extension is huge. We're talking like it literally could barely fit in this room. The nozzle extension is almost it's like 10 feet wide. It's like 3 meters wide basically, or maybe even a little bit bigger. Because don't forget, it takes up almost the entire 3.7 meter wide diameter of the Falcon 9. It's almost as wide as that. It's a little more. It's probably a little more than 3 meters. It's huge. That nozzle extension is huge. It's very thin. It's a single or like a very thin layer of niobium. So it's like a giant bell. And literally as soon as the gas stops flowing through it, it was highly pressurized during, there's a lot of pressure pushing against the walls. As soon as the engines stop, there's some exchange in pressure and it just vibrates for a little bit. It physically wobbles because it's a huge thin piece of niobium. So yeah, really, really, really cool. Yeah. All right. Tanner Dendy says they saw it. That's awesome. Fantastic. I'm glad that you got out there and saw it. Very cool, Tanner. Musical Wolves, avoid protests and be safe while in Texas. Yeah, I'll be very, very safe on the road. I take COVID stuff seriously. I'll be very safe, and I think I'll be going through parts of Texas that shouldn't be under any unrest, regardless of political things. Hopefully, we'll see. The one thing that I don't love already about driving through like Oklahoma and Texas in a Tesla is I'll get like people will coal roll, or they'll like tailgate me just for driving a Tesla. It's like, wait a minute. Wait, are you, hold on. Are you pro, like, what are you against? Are you against EVs? Because this is made in America. Like, are you America? Like, do you like America? Do you like torque? Because this thing is made in America. Do you like coal? Maybe you love coal and oil. Oh, weird. My car could physically run off of coal. Yours can't. You're probably running on oil from the Middle East. Like, if you wanted, and your truck was probably made in Mexico. Like, that's the funniest thing to me is when truckers tailgating like Teslas and being mad, and parking in EV spaces and stuff. It's like, hold on. Made in America. These are things you like, right? U.S. energy independence and torque, speed. What? Aren't we on the same side here? Like, what's going on? I don't get it. Yep. Keep running off that Middle Eastern oil that we seem to really, really like in the United States. Yep. So I don't get it. But yeah, I'll be careful. Blame Techie says, Mars fun. No, I don't want to go to Mars. Oh, I appreciate it. Trifid asks, where do I get my SpaceX and other models? I feel like I say this every video. I might not, I need to just have a link in the description. These are from the Falcon 9s are from buzzspacemodels.com. Everything else is from the launch provider except for the Lego Saturn V. So Blue Origin rockets for Blue Origin. They're not publicly available. The Electrons from Rocket Lab, not publicly available. The ULA rockets are from ULA. Those are available on ULA's shop. Yeah. William Wallace says, everybody astronaut, I utterly love your long videos and your live streams are now my go-to for SpaceX launches. Thank you. Well, thank you, William, for joining. I hope that we can just add and answer questions on top of an awesome stream. I mean, of course, SpaceX does a phenomenal job of bringing this stuff to us. My job is to just try to add to that if possible and hope that I can answer questions and help get excited and provide context for why this stuff is cool. So thank you very much, William. I appreciate that. Marcus, how's it going? What happens to the booster after it landed? Do people board, of course, I still love you to secure it, or does it start piloting back to shore uncrewed? So Marcus, the The rocket will safe itself. It almost immediately starts to relieve the pressure inside the tanks, lower the pressure down to basically ambient air temperature and pressures, or pressures only, bleeding out the COPVs, which are under extremely high pressure, the composite overwrap pressure vessels or tanks inside the main tanks, lowering all that to be safe that humans can get near it. It's secured by the Octograbber, a little robot that's like a Roomba that's inside of a garage on the deck of the ship that opens up. The Roomba goes out there, grabs onto the rocket, and holds onto it while it comes back into port so that people don't have to manually secure it. But the drone, the barge or the drone ship is just a barge. So it's actually not powered. It can't drive itself into port, which I'm surprised they don't just let it do that. Actually, that'd be kind of cool. Have it be powered and drive it back in. It's actually pulled in by a tugboat. So there are people on the tugboat. There are people, there are people nearby that have to approach it, which is why they have to safe the vehicle for those situations. Julian, hi Tim. What do you think of the new thrust puck on serial number 12, tweeted by Raphael? How much confidence do you have with SpaceX's skydive test in subscale? I have not seen Raphael's tweet. Let me check that real quick. So we're not doing hardcore schematics on the different thrust pucks. So I'm not worried. We're not going that deep where we're going to make individual changes, because that's where you're going down the weeds of Starship. It's still in prototyping phase. This is just a general overview of like everything you kind of need to know. I'm not going to be like, I do kind of talk about like thrusters and how they're changing to hot gas in the future, but I'm not like, see, this thrust puck is like this, and this one is like, I'm trying to just make it very much an overview of the systems, how they work, how they will work. But yeah, so I'm not too worried about little tiny details like that, but Raphael does such a fantastic job of keeping things up to date. And how much confidence do I have with SpaceX's skydive test in subscale? So that's a good way to close the loop or learn how the control scheme works, is at subscale. Of course, RC planes, RC helicopters scale up pretty well. You can help make sure that everything works as planned at subscale. So it's a pretty valid way to validate. It's a valid way to validate your systems. Make sure that this wacky control scheme that's like a skydiver works. I have a decent amount of confidence that it will be good. The hard part for me is that all of the thing that I'm nervous about is all of this new hardware for, the articulating fins and flaps, that all of the hardware will work properly, that they'll have enough torque to be able to do the things at scale. That's the hard part. I think the control, as long as they move, and design them to move at the right rate and everything, I think they'll have enough there. So we will see. Thank you so much for the membership, Bad Geek Squad. I appreciate it. Nabil says, Elon said early on during Starship development that it could hold 100 people. Seeing the current rocket, it seems way too small for that many people. Are serial number prototypes smaller? Don't be fooled by the size. There's 1,000 cubic meters of volume inside the payload bay. 1,000 cubic meters, that's more volume than a 747. More pressurized volume than a 747. And a 747 holds, hundreds and hundreds of people for long periods of time. Now, Starship might only hold 100 people for shorter term missions, shorter duration things like, point to point, low Earth orbit missions, things like that. I don't think that size Starship will send 100 people to Mars. I don't think it'd send 100 people to the moon, but it's very capable of 100 people for relatively short term. Of course, the beauty of Starship is the whole thing will someday be scaled up. They're building it in a freaking field. It's prone to be able to be scaled up, and someday they will. Great question. Hey, Tim, ask Elon when he's going to put a saucer section on Starship. A saucer section on Starship for me. Han Solo, is that something that Han Solo does in movies? He has a saucer section? What's a saucer section? Someone help. Thank you, Han Solo. Hopefully I'll find the answer and get the joke. Paris has a hippo. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. JM Studios. Can ULA land Vulcan like Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy? BE-4 should be able to reignite, or do they just want to waste money? So JM, they cannot land a Vulcan that way because it has only 2 engines. And even if you had the minimum, and because they're 2 and 2 offset, you can't just land on one engine. If you did land, if you had 2 engines lit while the booster is virtually empty, you would be at an insane thrust to weight ratio. We're talking like 10-to-1 or something. It'd be very hard to land propulsively. They do have use though, and plans to detach the engine section and recover them downrange. Because don't forget, Vulcan will land. First stage will be like over thousands of kilometers downrange. That booster does a ton of work on Vulcan and on today's Atlas V. It does an insane amount of work. They plan to try to recover the engine someday using smart reuse, where the engines will detach. They'll inflate a hypersonic heat shield, basically, re-enter, and then be swooped out of the sky with a parachute. So, yeah. Oh, this looks like, wait. Han Solo asked if there's going to be a saucer section, but people are saying it's a Star Trek reference. See, that don't make no sense to me. Star Trek and Han Solo. But yeah, maybe there will be a saucer section. JM, hopefully that answers your question. Tom, when will SpaceX upgrade the 240p cameras on the drone ship to a decent camera 1080p with HDR? I like to watch. So Tom, a lot of that is not the cameras on board, but it's they have high resolution cameras. It's about bandwidth and the availability of transmitting data through a shaking plasma field, right? The rocket is producing an insane amount of thrust. And not only is it producing a lot of thrust, it's also producing a lot of interference because of the plasma that's emitted from the engine. And just, it's violent. And if you're trying to send something up into space as an uplink, it doesn't like that violence. So they've made improvements, as you guys have been able to see, for the past couple of years. So yeah, they're always working on it. They're always tweaking. And I follow by their example and try to always tweak and make everything better too. Kevin Waring, thanks for the membership. I appreciate you. Artur says, will the Artemis program and NASA budget be affected by the president changes? We did talk about that quite a bit earlier. But yes, it can be. It very much can be. That is the problem with NASA, is that they're prone to changes each administration change. Hopefully, Artemis is pretty mature. It has checks written, has hardware built, has a lot of exciting things that have a lot of bipartisan support. I think it would be pretty shocking if at this point there was drastic changes there might be changes to Artemis long term, but for the next Artemis 1 through 3, I think are pretty secure, even if there's a massive administration change. So we'll have to see how that actually plays out. But that's a valid question. I did talk about that quite a bit earlier. So, yeah. All right. This is from Gerald. Thank you very much. Have you seen the SpaceX Thunderbirds parody video that came out the other day? One of the best I've seen. I'm British, and the video follows the Thunderbird style exactly. I haven't. I saw it actually pop up, but I haven't watched it yet. I've been literally head down working like 12 or 14 hours every day, working on getting this stupid video out. So I have not checked that. I will have to give it a watch at your recommendation. So thank you. From Bad Geek Squad again. Whoa. Holy cow, Bad Geek Squad. Wow. My son, David, just celebrated his 10th birthday and requested that one of his gifts be a donation to you. David, are you a saint, child? Thanks for everything you do. Oh, and please add more youth sizes to your store. I've already purchased everything I could for him. Wow. Okay, first off, happy birthday, David. Everyone say happy birthday to David. That's awesome. I love that you're 10 years old and getting excited about this stuff. And thank you, Bad Geek Squad, for being an awesome parent and helping share, everything that's exciting, in this world and something to look forward to. So that is awesome. I really, David, you don't have to do that for your birthday. That's crazy. I really appreciate it though. Wow. I don't think I would have been anywhere near that generous when I was 10. I would have wanted a Power Rangers Megazord thing or whatever they were called. The thing that, Go Power Rangers. Yeah, that is awesome. So happy birthday, David. I hope it's awesome. I hope that this year we get to see a lot more exciting. I hope by the time you're 11, you've seen some incredible spaceflight things happen. I think Starship will be fun. I think there's a lot of exciting things to happen in the next year. So yes, thank you very, very, very much. Casey Rendragon, when's the next test for Starship? Serial number 8, I'm assuming. Casey, we're kind of waiting. There should be static fires coming up. I said in last week's episode of Our Ludicrous Future, I said, I'm not going to be hitting the road until I see at least one static fire again. Here's what we just saw: a header tank cryo test the other night, or a cryo test the other night. I think we're going to see at least another 3-engine static fire, potentially 2 3-engine static fires, because I think we'll also see a header tank static fire and a main tank static fire again with that new engine. So I think we'll see probably 2 static fires and some other system test outs. I'm guessing we're still about a solid week away from the 15-kilometer hop, maybe even more. There are closures saying both 15 kilometers and static fire. Yes, but some of those have already changed. So, interesting. I haven't heard that about maybe doing a static fire and then relighting or like refueling and going for the launch. That might not be a bad idea. That might be an efficient way of doing that. Gary says, speaking of favorite rockets, mine has to be the Saturn V. Nothing like watching the launch of one of those live on TV when I was a kid. That's awesome, Gary. See, I can't wait to like have that moment for this generation. I am so excited I'm just ready. I'm ready to see something crazy like that. I think Starship and the Artemis program and stuff like that will be, so far DM2 is probably the closest thing I've had to that moment where I finally watched a rocket that had humans inside of it go into space. That was nuts. Seeing Starship and when humans ride SLS go to the moon, like that will be insane. Seeing Starship go out to the moon with people on for Deer Moon and go off to Mars someday, that will be absolutely nutty. So I can't wait. It's coming. Smith 1414. Hey Tim, Paul all the way from Scotland. We can't wait for the new Starship video. Why do rockets not burn when escaping our atmosphere? So because the air is getting thinner and thinner. That's the whole reason why rockets go up, right? By the time they're above the discernible parts of the atmosphere, or I guess while they're still in the atmosphere, they just aren't going very fast, right? They're accelerating still. And it takes them 8 minutes of acceleration to get up to orbital velocity. Now, if you're to deorbit, you're starting at that speed and you're re-entering. You could get, if you lower your orbit, you could be popping back down into really thick parts of the atmosphere and be screaming way too fast and make way too much heat. It's the opposite on ascent. You're slowest while you're in the thickest parts of the atmosphere. And then you're going straight up. So the atmosphere, even though you're speeding up, the atmosphere is getting thinner. And after max Q, the amount of atmospheric pressure in the atmosphere on the vehicle is lower and lower and lower because you're still ascending. So by the time it's going fast enough for any, if it were going that fast and doing a really hard pitch over and not doing a really aggressive gravity turn, it could actually get really hot. And it does get hot. I mean, notice that the tip of the Falcon 9's fairing actually has a little bit of like titanium or some kind of metal on the nose cone on the tip of the fairing because it does get hot. It gets very hot, but it doesn't get to the point of seeing plasma build up because it's just not quite that fast. So, good question. Itine says, if you could fly on any rocket, old or new, and without considering the payload capacity and on a hypothetical crew capsule, which one would it be? Oh, man. I don't know. So they're getting ready to relight the second stage engine. I think I would have to fly on the Saturn V and the Apollo capsule because it was actually surprisingly reliable and it had, abort systems and backups. I think that's what I would probably fly, either that or today. I would definitely fly on the Dragon capsule after it flies a handful more times because and I would fly on a Blue Origin capsule tomorrow because the New Shepard has flown so many times and been perfectly successful. So yeah. Branto in Discord wants to know when we're going to hear from SpaceX again. It should be any second, and we've got them pulled up here. So as soon as it should be in about the next 2 or 3 minutes. This is from Kirian, says, I named my son Mars. What do you think of that? I think that's awesome. I actually knew a guy named Mars, and I think he's a really cool guy. So I think that's great. That's a great name. And hello, Mars. Hope you love your name as much as I do. That's awesome. Stefan says, thank you very much, Stefan. Hi, Tim from Oz. Always a great stream. When are we going to head off? When am I going to head off to Boca Chica for the inaugural flight of Starship? I'm predicting a litho brake maneuver at the end of flight. Hope I'm online when it all happens. Cheers. Steven or Stefan. Again, it's milestone based. I'm waiting to see another static fire or preparation for a static fire. And just waiting to see that we for sure have closures and things in the calendar before I go down. And definitely, now that I'm going to have this video finished, I'll feel better about getting on the road and being there a little too early. But I really wanted to have this video, the Starship video, posted before I left. So good thing it's been scrubbed and I've had more time to focus and make it an awesome video, because now it is the best video I've made. Yep. Trademark or something. I don't know. Yeah. So hopefully I'll be leaving. At this point, it looks like probably Sunday or Monday. We'll see. Kilgore 1311. Go ahead and order it. Here's for the fun. Well, thank you so much, Kilgore. Maybe I'll do it after the stream. Dang, thank you. Philip 5. Hi, thank you so much, Philip 5. I appreciate you guys. Jason S. Watching with my daughter Hannah, who just celebrated her 13th birthday. Well, happy birthday, Hannah. That's awesome. I hope you love this stuff as much as we do. Let's tune in, though, and Hannah, happy birthday. Thank you, Jason.
For the U.S. Space Force. To recap what's happened so far this evening, we had a smooth on-time liftoff at 6:24 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. 2.5 minutes later, we separated the first stage from the second stage. The second stage then completed its first burn, successfully inserting the GPS with the second stage still attached into the planned parking orbit. Now we're coming up on the second burn of the upper stage engine in about half a minute. Flight computer is currently commanding settling thrusters to turn on and off. That's releasing nitrogen gas out of 2 thrusters in the back of the second stage that lightly pushes the stage, and that helps keep the propellant at the bottom of the tank right above the inlets to the engine's turbo pumps. As you can see from the ground track, we're passing south of the Tasmania ground station in Australia. Following the burn, we'll be headed in orbit up towards the Hawaii and Vandenberg ground stations. Awaiting for ignition.
MVAC ignition.
We've got ignition of the second stage engine. We're up on power. Now, the second stage will burn for 45 seconds. We're going to be adding over 2,000 meters per second to the speed of Falcon 9 before we shut it down for the second time. You can see from the velocity meter on the screen the speed clicking up. We're still at 419 kilometers in the same altitude in the parking orbit where we've been for a while. But this burn is going to bring us all the way up into the transfer orbit, and then shortly after that we'll separate the GPS satellite. Now we're coming up on shutdown number 2 called SECO 2, and this is the burn that will place GPS 3 space vehicle into the required orbit.
MVAC shutdown.
We've got SECO, MVAC shutdown call out. We're waiting for the orbit.
Good.
Nominal insertion orbit.
Nice.
The guidance, navigation, and control engineer has called out a nominal orbit. Looking at the data, it's an excellent looking orbit. So second stage in a good orbit, GPS spacecraft is still attached to the Falcon 9 at this time. Now we're going to go through a series of events to get ready for separation. A little bit after we have finished a short coast, we are going to start a slow spin of the second stage. That's going to help stabilize the GPS satellite when it's released from the second stage. We also have to wait until the orbit takes us into range of the 2 Air Force satellite ground stations, one in Hawaii, one in California. We've got to make sure that the ground stations can be in contact with the GPS satellite before we release it. So all of this is going to take 24 minutes to get into the right situation at the right spin rate. And if that satellite separation is planned to occur at about T plus 1 hour and 29 minutes. So we're going to pause the commentary now during this coast, but we will come back just before planned separation in about 23 minutes. We'll be back with you at T plus 1 hour, 28 minutes, and 30 seconds.
All right. Got a little bit more time to answer some questions here for you guys while we wait for that event. So again, Jason and Hannah, thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Happy birthday, Hannah. Paul Clark, I thank you very much. I appreciate your tip. O'Donnell says, do you think there will be another polar orbit out of Florida? I think they've proven it's a good option. I could see that being a thing again and someday, but I can't really, I don't know of any upcoming missions that would require that. So yeah, good question. Sergey says, first shot of Tesla tequila on me. Guys, let's chip in for that $250 US bottle for the memes. Oh, I'll consider it. That's so silly. But thank you very much, Sergey. I really appreciate it. Mitchell Bard, hey man, keep up the good work. Go SpaceX. Thank you very much, Mitchell. From Tom, did somebody say Mars Fund? No, I'm not going to Mars. That's just what you're going to get every time. Julian Church, any updates on the international shipping in the store? Looking to buy some from Australia. Happy launch day. Yes, we are working on a new store. The whole store will flip. You'll know as soon as you see I'll make a big stink of it online. You'll see it all over the place. Once you see a new store, that will have the new shipping. And it's not as good as we were hoping. This is actually a nightmare, come to find out. Or so I'm told by my shop manager. Yeah, it's really hard. And but the good news is we will at least have door-to-door tracking. It should be a little bit cheaper, and it should be way faster. Like, you should be able to get your products within a week or two instead of like a month or two, because they won't get stuck in customs. So yeah. So as soon as the store is flipped, we will have much better international shipping options. So don't you worry. Musical Wolves, NASA tweeted a voting booth on the space station. Do they vote online or by mail or by phone? They definitely vote online, I think. I don't think they do it by mail. They would have had to do that a while ago. But yeah, I think it's some kind of secure system online. Good question. Hey guys, really quick, my throat is like super dry. I'm going to take a really quick little break. And I'm just going to fill up on water, and I will be right back in just a few seconds. So 1 second. I'm sorry that I left you without any audio. That was rude of me. I am back. I was parched and getting too warm. All right. This is from Lee Grice. Thank you so much, Lee. I appreciate that. And same with Georgie Clark. I appreciate your tips. 2 of them. Thank you, Georgie. Vegas WR450. Good channel. Thanks. You're welcome. Thank you for tuning in and subscribing and hanging out. Sean C. Pair character lifting some weights saying keep it up. I appreciate the emoji and the tip, Sean. Tony, thank you. Here's a deposit on that bottle of Tesla Tequila. Great job on the streams and coverage. How much interaction do you get with SpaceX and other launch providers? I'll bet you are on Elon's speed dial. Definitely not on Elon's speed dial, that's for sure. But, you know, I have a good relationship with the communication departments at the launch providers, I guess. That's an important thing is not, you know, not burning any bridges. Make sure that I'm doing stuff that you know, I guess I try to be objective and just teach what's exciting about all this stuff. I'm not trying to do any hit pieces or any like salacious things. I'm just trying to teach and get people excited. So I have a good relationship with the different launch providers and with NASA. And I think that's, you know, when you work together, you can do a lot more cool and exciting things. So yeah. Lee Grice says, great channel. Usually watch the SpaceX channel, but you are my new viewing choice. What happens to the second stage after separation? Thank you, Lee. Yeah, the second stage ends up on a mission like this. It'll probably, I don't remember if this will do a deorbit burn or not, but they will usually turn around the second stage after stage separation, deorbit on a low Earth orbit mission, and it'll put itself somewhere in the Indian Ocean in like this exclusion zone. We'll actually talk about that in our upcoming video about Starship. Otherwise, for like GTO missions, geostationary transfer orbit missions, they will kick themselves out into a graveyard orbit, they're called. Yeah, so that's what happens to them normally, which is why it's going to be awesome when Starship is fully reusable. From Jody Flex Media, hey, you mentioned more options for shipping. Oh, yeah, sorry, I just answered that question about international shipping. It will be coming with the flip of the store. So stay tuned, Jody. Thank you for your question. Marcus Langendorf, thanks, written on top of a purple heart. Well, thank you very much, Marcus, for the thanks and the purple heart. Meryl Sky says, or Ski says, again, hi again. Are the Starlink satellites able to deorbit in case of some emergency? I don't know of any cases for doing that, but is Starlink able to do that? They are able to deorbit. They deorbit themselves at the end of their life. They completely are exposable or disposable in the atmosphere. 100% complete depletion, so nothing will hit the ground. It'll all burn up in the atmosphere. No big deal. And they have obstacle avoidance. They actually have ways of smartfulness, knowing where other satellites and other objects are and avoiding them in space. So, yeah. Let's see. Good question. Georgie Clark, why are launches always from Launch Complex 39, 40, 41? What are 1, 2, 3 used for? So that's a good question. There's not, I don't, I'm trying to think of the lowest number. So 36 is where Blue Origin will be launching from. I mean, I'm pretty sure they just go in, no, they don't go in order north to south at all. I'll have to look into that because I don't exactly know why there's not just like LC 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And, maybe there was at some point just 1, 2, 3, and 4, and they kept making more and more for different missiles and different rockets. And now the only ones used are the bigger ones. ICBM, Branto in Discord says ICBM launches. That sounds about right to me. Yeah, they're probably just smaller. And Philip in Discord says, military code, you don't want the Russians to know how many launch pads you have. Yeah, there are a ton of pads out on the Cape, but most of them just are small and lacking infrastructure. Vovacat says, at least your next president will, sorry, I'm trying to avoid politics, but yeah, I guess I'll say we'll see as far as who is next in line. It's still being tallied at the moment, but yeah, as you guys know, as a science communicator, I do find it extremely important that our public servants also are aware and wanting. The thing that I find frustrating is when people don't realize that renewable energy is an investment still. Like it's an economy on its own. It's a growing economy. Like why? Purely from an investment economical standpoint, like if you're just worried about the economy, look at trends. Like what is increasing? Like Tesla's the number one most valuable car company now. So let's invest in technology and green technology. Solar, lithium battery technology is like one of the most prolific. Everyone's fighting over who can make the best batteries. Why aren't we investing as a country? So the point is not to necessarily invest in that because that's not the government's job, but maybe just maybe let's not offset and subsidize oil and other forms of energy unfairly compared to renewable energy. I think an administration change that really strongly focuses on how do we transition into renewable energy and do it in a way that spurs the economy instead of, that's one of the big fears is we don't want to hurt our economy. We don't want to hurt, make a huge transition that knocks out everything that's useful right now. A truck driver that maybe just bought $140,000 diesel semi truck. He doesn't want to be like, I am now out of options. I just put all of my life savings into this vehicle. I think there needs to be some kind of way, carbon tax. There's a lot of countries doing carbon taxes. That was actually proposed by the Reagan administration. So I don't think if you're wanting to talk politics, I think it's something that just makes sense. It makes sense to look at that. I think I think the big thing is we need to level the playing field because right now the scales are actually tipped to the advantage of oil. And that seems, unfair to me. So, all right. Paul says, hey, Tim, long time. I'm making up for quitting your Patreon. Money's tight right now. Become a patron if you can. Keep up the great work. Well, thank you, Paul. You really don't have to do that. I really appreciate that. Yeah, that's extremely, extremely nice of you. Patreon has been great, and that's why we're able to make better videos and why I'm able to have Andrew and the website crew and get down to Boca Chica. So yeah, if you guys want to join, our Discord channel is awesome. You know, we just have an awesome time in there. So yeah. All right. So B Kirksker. Old Floridians used to talk about the ground shaking in Orlando with Saturn when the Saturn V launched. I've watched 50 plus shuttle launch, but I want that same feeling. What rocket do you think the Cape will see that again? SLS. SLS is absolutely going to be the most ground shaking rocket to fly in a long time, and until Starship really starts flying regularly, if or when it flies in Florida. But SLS will be, 33% more RS-25 power and about 25% more SLS power, or solid rocket booster power. So it's going to be an extremely loud rocket, and it will be ground shaking. I'm excited because I didn't ever get to see a Saturn V or a space shuttle, of course, or I guess I should say a space shuttle launch, really, or of course not a Saturn V. This is kind of like the two of those mated together. So I'll be able to kind of relive a little and live a little bit of those moments by having the ground shaking aspects of those solid rocket boosters on the space shuttle, but also kind of the size and the scale very close to a Saturn V with SLS. I'm excited for that. So yeah. Jody is a member. Thank you very much, Jody. I really appreciate that. Peter Cuddy says, when are the Team Space shirts coming out? You will see. Those are actually in production right now. I can't wait for you to see them. As you guys probably know by me and any of the things that I do, it's not just a straight up Team Space. It's something much more meaningful and very cool. I promise. Super, super, super cool. One Canadian girl says, when Starship starts transporting people, will those people be called Starship Troopers? I hope so. That's awesome. Thank you very much, One Canadian girl. I don't know. I hope that they have a different name. If we're just doing point to point, I even hesitate saying if, someone doing a suborbital tourism launch, if they should be considered on the same page of astronaut as, someone that serves for 6 months on the International Space Station as a working astronaut. Like, I feel like there should almost be different classes of astronauts, and maybe Starship Trooper can be one of those. That's awesome. Thank you so much. John Hart, send birthday David a t-shirt. He deserves it. Well, sounds like David has all the t-shirts. It sounds like we need to make more cool t-shirts that David can wear. So, and yeah, that's awesome. Thank you, John. And David, we got to get you something awesome for being such a cool kid. DJT2412, Elon will want to know about saucer section. Star Trek ships have a deployable saucer section. Hey, okay. Thank you for letting me know what the heck that was about, because I had no idea. Yeah, thank you. So let's see. MK, cottage cheese is the best, and I love it. I don't love cottage cheese. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to not side with you, MK, but that is my hot take. These are crazy times, and that's my hot take. BRNCC says, hey, Tim, why are there two orbits in SpaceX's map? One blue, which seems to be the actual one, and one white. White is probably an alternate inclination for some reason. Sorry, I've already answered. Actually, that is a really good question. It's confusing to me too, actually. I've always wondered actually what exactly. So I think what we're seeing on screen right now, let me switch this so it's easier for you guys to see. 1 second. Like this. Okay, so the blue line is where it's going. The line behind the blue line, or behind directly in line of the blue line is where it's been most recently. The line straight down from that is the ground track, and that line along the ground is the ground track. I think the gray orbit that's orbiting over, I think that's where it was going before that maneuver, before the, I think that's actually, that might be the last orbit, the previous orbit, because don't forget the Earth is spinning underneath an orbit. So even though an orbit is actually on the same plane always, when you track it along the Earth, it kind of looks like it rotates around. So yeah, I think that's the best way to answer that. So thank you for that question. From Jorgen or Horan, great fan from Norway. We appreciate you and Elon's work. Since you know Elon, please ask him what Mars ticket will cost in 2035. So he said for a while that he thinks he can get a ticket down to like $200,000 or $225,000. He's like, I want an average person, to be able to choose to live on Mars as an option, and work on Mars. Yeah, if you watch the very first, the 2016 Interplanetary Transportation System video at IAC, the International Aeronautical Congress in Guadalajara, Mexico, the first time they kind of revealed the BFR or the ITS or now Starship. Watch that. Yeah, he has a lot more vision kind of about like how they see this going in the future eventually. So yeah, good question. Ryan Hamstra says, as a fellow camera nerd, can you do a mini video on what camera equipment you're using to get the telescope shots, the 120 frames per second in Texas, etc.? Yeah, so I can tell you right now, the 120 frames a second, I've been a big fan of the Z-Cam. It's a Z-Cam E2 S6, or the Z-Cam E2, and then I have two different E2s. I have the 6K E2, and I have two of the 4Ks that shoot 120 frames a second. And then we just have a launch mount. I actually have a bunch of footage. I probably do need to do a video someday about how we do the telescope stuff, but no, I don't have the F4. The F4 is the F4, Andrew, is the full frame. M4. That might be M4. Mike, okay, so yeah, there you go, Ryan. That's kind of the gear rundown. Mike Warren, thank you so much for the Tesla Tequila bottle. Well, thank you. I'll look into it. Thank you, though. I appreciate that. Jesse, I have to be up for work in 6 hours. I regret nothing. Jesse, you're hardcore. That's crazy. Good luck at work. This is from Andrew Maluli. Love my EDA full flow stage combustion hoodie. This is not paid advertisement, although wouldn't mind another hoodie as payment. That is awesome. Thank you, Andrew. Yeah, like I said, we've really upped the ante especially with those hoodies. They're awesome. I care a lot about, just like the videos, I care about quality. Quality matters most to me. I want things to be high quality and good feeling, good. I want it to be stuff that I want to wear. I want to make videos that I want to watch. Yeah. So thank you very much for the support. From Enrolmra. How far away off, of course, I still love you, does the tug sit during landing? Could it capture landing if it had a cam and Starlink? It's a good 10 or 15 miles. So 16 to 22 or whatever kilometers away, or 22 or 24 kilometers away. So it's over the horizon, basically. You really wouldn't have a straight line to the drone ship. Some of it would fall over the horizon, but they could do that, but it's just probably not really worth it. So, RJC, isn't point-to-point extremely bad for the environment? I talk about that. I have a whole video on it, on how much do rockets pollute. I break down everything. How many point-to-point transportation launches would it take to be as bad as airplanes, et cetera, et cetera. So, the answer is, if you're using methane, which can be, you can actually recapture the carbon out of the atmosphere using the in situ or using the Sabatier process. You can actually make methane out of the atmosphere, be carbon neutral. So it actually could be an improvement. The bigger concern is actually almost re-entry, because that plasma can actually put holes in our, not put holes. That's kind of an old saying, but it can burn up ozone and deplete our ozone layer. So yeah, it's not actually that bad. Or it can and can't be. Depends. Mitchell Bard, I love that you refrain from being political. Your content is my sanctuary from that drama. Well, thank you, Mitchell. It's important. I mean, and life is more than politics. And it's sad that politics is such an emotional thing for so many people. And it can be me included, but I really try to focus on what's important to me. And, and realize that, some of my best friends and I are completely different viewpoints politically. And I think that's extremely important to have that. People that you still, that you trust, that you love, that you can have good conversations with that. And that opens me up to a perspective that we all were raised differently. We're all from different backgrounds. We all have we live in different places, different geographies. There's so many different parts of being a human, and that's okay. You know, that we can all be different. And as long as we understand that people are going to have different priorities and different perspectives, that I get so sick of politics when it becomes an attack on character always, and an attack on other people, and saying that, you know, generalizing that, oh, a dumb redneck, you know, hillbilly Republican, or an evil liberal. It's like, no, there's people that are slightly liberal or whatever like that, or it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. That does not make someone evil. Newsflash. So that's because you know what? There's a lot cooler things going on. There's freaking rockets putting awesome stuff into space. There's GPS freaking version 3 going up into space right now. Why would we get, you know, held down in petty politics? You know, that's my, that's my politics is space. Samuel, your videos helped me through a hard time, jobless with depressed. You motivated me to get back on track and study astrophysics. I'm now doing really well. Samuel, that is what I'm talking about. See right there. That's what dude, that means the world to me. That really does. I am almost at a loss for words, because to me, that's what this is all about, is really when you focus on something that's kind of bigger than yourself and helps remove you from, you can get bogged down. The news can be really sad. 2020 has been a hard year for everyone on Earth. We're all experiencing the pandemic. We're at just absolute peaks with unrest everywhere. I mean, it's just weird. It's uncomfortable. But you know what? If you stop focusing on that, stop watching the news every day, getting overwhelmed, and if you start focusing on something awesome, like how do rockets freaking work? How can I get involved in this? Yeah, that's awesome. That's what I want to hear, man. That's good luck, Sam. We are all cheering for you. Like you are the future. You are the reason we're going to be having humans on the moon again and have humans on Mars. Keep that as your motivation, that, you know what? I want to expand humanity's presence and knowledge. I want to get us out there into the solar system and explore places we've never been. Think about how many...
Coverage of the GPS 3 Space Vehicle 4 mission for the U.S. Space Force. If you're just now joining us, we had an on-time launch at 6:24 p.m. Eastern Time, followed by a successful ascent, stage separation. First stage came back and landed on Of Course I Still Love You, and 2 second stage engine burns. We have just one more major milestone coming up to complete today's mission, which of course is the deployment of the GPS 3 satellite from Falcon 9's second stage, just about 15 seconds from now. Currently, the second stage is rotating to stabilize the GPS 3 satellite, and we're currently in view of those 2 customer ground stations on the western U.S. that John mentioned earlier that are necessary to connect to prior to deployment today. We've got a nice live view of that GPS 3 satellite.
Payload deploy confirmed.
And there confirms the deployment of the GPS 3 satellite as it's drifting away from Falcon 9 with a nice sunlit view there. This confirms a successful spacecraft separation, and that completes our primary mission, which will bring today's webcast coverage to a close.
And it's a great view of the GPS satellite drifting slowly away from the Falcon 9 second stage, and it's a great way to bring a webcast to an end. Mm-hmm. We'd like to thank the U.S. Space Force for entrusting us with today's GPS 3 Space Vehicle 4 mission. And we look forward to the additional GPS missions we will be supporting in the future. Special thanks this evening to the 45th Space Wing for range support, and to all of our viewers, thanks for joining us for today's mission, and have a good weekend.
Sweet. It's cool they're ending on the shot and they're just letting us kind of live in that shot. That's awesome. Good directorial decision, Jamie. That's super cool. Sweet. Well, we've got a few more things we can talk about here. A few more things. So yes, getting your butt out there and helping humans explore. I mean, that's what matters. Because think about this. How many of all the famous names and people throughout history, you know, how many of them are explorers, are someone that did something first? It's almost all history is really. It's just a first, a set of, you know, scientists that might have discovered something first, or, you know, someone climbing Mount Everest or walking on the moon, or et cetera, et cetera. You know, I think that's what's nuts to think about is there's still more to explore. There's actually room in the history books or the history tablets or whatever, for people to go and explore new places. And our generation, or the next generation, or the current generation, are the ones that are going to be doing that right now. And that to me is what's super, super exciting. So again, Samuel, I'm really glad to hear you're doing much better. We are all here for you as a community. You know, we're all in this together to just be excited, to have some hope and have some fun, you know, have something to look forward to. And thank you very much for letting us know. Jughead says, Tim, we would love a video on Zambia sending astronauts to Mars. I don't actually know too much about it. The very impressive technology created in an attempt to get to the moon and Mars. I'll have to read up on that because I don't actually know too much on that, but that sounds awesome. That sounds very cool. Rough Riders Show. What's my plan to cover Crew 1? So at this point, Starship serial number 8 takes my attention. I'm not going to be driving down for Crew 1. I might be covering Crew 1 from a hotel, or I might even be able to cover it at down in Boca Chica. Maybe stream it from in front of Starship or something. That might be really cool. So serial number 8 is going to that's what I'm going to be paying most attention to, because that's it's hard. We'll get to the point where I can easily cover from both places soon. But I'll be covering it more like normal. It'll either be, if it's down in Boca Chica, it'll be just like this, though. We'll have the same on-screen solution, same mics and everything. So, yeah. So I promise it'll be good still. Musical Wolves. Are northern lights brighter than on Earth, or why can't we see from cameras in space? Well, my friend, I think you might just have to look at the right video, because of course you can see them from space. Just type in Aurora Borealis from space. You'll see plenty of footage. You just have to be, so the International Space Station, of course, because it's at that 51.6 degrees, flies pretty far north. It flies far enough north to be able to see the northern lights. But normal spacecraft, you don't always get that option of seeing it. You do have to, the northern lights, it has to be pretty, you have to be, again, exposing to the northern lights. You can't be exposing your cameras. See how in those shots you can see stars. You have to be exposing to something that's, because these are relatively dim during daylight hours. So if the northern lights are, if you're seeing them from a far enough satellite, like, what's that one that sees the entire Earth all the time? What was that one called? Then, you're exposing to bright daylight. Again, it's the same photography thing we were talking about earlier. Your aperture, ISO, and your shutter speed are going to be exposing to the daylight of Earth, and you will not be able to see the northern lights because they are not visible during the day. You're just like the human eye can't see it during the day. Same with cameras. So it has to be nighttime. Discover. That's what it is. DSCOVR. If that was shooting nighttime, you might be able to actually see it. So yeah, there's tons of footage of the auroras. But again, notice that they are long exposure. These are time lapses from still photography in order to expose the stars like that. These are probably, 10, 15, 20 second exposures, high ISO. Although these days you could probably do like a Sony A7S, like an S3 or 4, whatever they're on, the newest one. And like I've got this one lens it's a 14 millimeter f1.8. Throw that baby at 1/30 of a second. You might actually be able to get stars in there in real time, which would be super, super cool. So yeah, so to answer your question, yes, you could, you can see the northern lights in space. Josh Wilson, I can't wait until my serial number 8 coverage. Can't watch anything that isn't educational these days. Your videos are my go-to. Everyone should try it sometime. Well, thank you, Josh. See, that's the thing. I'm in the same boat. I don't really care to watch, I don't even like sci-fi movies that are about space that aren't like super realistic. I just don't care. It's like, why would I live in a fantasy world when I can get excited about things happening right now and learn more. I'm like addicted to trying to learn. Like my downtime is trying to catch up on, like Scott Manley videos and other videos from other creators and just catching up on Starship news. Like that's my downtime. Or I'll watch I watch a lot of like someday I'll probably end up being an architect or something like that, because that's also what I watch in my downtime. I do watch a lot of that kind of stuff. I love it. But yeah, learning is fun. I know it sucks because when you're a kid, you associate the way you're learning with the way you're being taught in school. And unfortunately, that's not always fun. It's not always the right way for people to learn. I hated school growing up. I hated learning. I thought learning was dumb. And now as an adult, it's all I care to do. So yeah. Darren says, would it be possible to fly a super heavy booster to the Cape from Boca Chica versus building it in Florida? So perspective wise, you need to understand just how far away. So, for instance, a Falcon 9 mission that goes really far, like 600 kilometers downrange, that's not even a third of the way to Florida for the booster. Now, granted, if you are able to not have the upper stage, you'd still be you might be able to extend that out quite a bit, and maybe get over to Florida, but you don't want to fly over populated areas. That's generally a no-no thing. You also, how much does it cost to fuel up a super heavy booster and fly it that far? Versus why not just keep a super heavy booster at its dedicated launch site? So that there will eventually be factories basically at every launch site. So there's no real need. These are relatively simple factories. These aren't like, these aren't, it's easier to ship these engines. These engines are small enough to ship engines to where they need to go. The fuselage and the hull is like relatively simple. They're just giant rings. So there's really no real need to have to ship one like that. There's just, and it's dangerous. So for those reasons, you probably won't ever see anything like that. But good question. V-Lord, at 7, I saw the final space shuttle launch and became fascinated by space exploration. I love SpaceX, but I just can't get with Starlink because of its effect on amateur astronomy. What do you think? Well, V-Lord, I have gone out trying to photograph Starlink multiple times. I have gone out hands full of times trying to catch a Starlink train or Starlink now. Try and take photos of Starlink now. It's very hard. It's actually difficult to do. Granted, it's only 1/10 of the way done, but if it's 10 times more obvious in the future, they're getting a lot darker. They're in their final orbits. They're less reflective. They're using solar shades. They're pointing in wrong ways. To me, they are not at all as big of, especially not for an amateur. They will not, I don't think, be any true effect for someone out stargazing. Because if you're stargazing, it's, an hour or two after sunset, those satellites will not be reflective anymore. That's the thing is, I've done a lot of astrophotography. I don't do astrophotography at dusk or dawn. I do it in the middle of the night when it's darkest, when you have the darkest night sky. And in those cases, the satellites will not be reflective because they're also in the shadow of the Earth and they are not able to reflect off the sun. So it's a compounding thing. Astrophotographers should not be worried because you should be taking pictures in the absolute dusk. So you shouldn't have problems then. You also, if you're stacking images, you can do a negative stack and remove any things like planes. I'm more worried about planes. I've had planes ruin my photos for years, but you can negative stack planes, right? Same with Starlink satellites. You can do that too. And also they're getting dimmer. So I'm not worried about it as a fan of astronomy, but I am more worried about the scientific discoveries and things that require this little tiny piece of the sky that's being observed for something that it could be more of a nuisance there, but SpaceX is working very closely with the astronomy community to help prevent and mitigate that as much as possible. So, yeah, good question, V-Lord. But personally, I go take some pictures of Starlink satellites, and I think you'll have a hard time doing it. Jorgen B, if SpaceX had more financial assistance from the U.S. federal government, would Starship development go faster? Government should fund Moonbase. I do, funding always helps. At this point, I think they are doing fairly well with funding, but I think funding can always help and money talks. I think if they decided tomorrow, hey, we're going to actually invest $5 billion into Starship, I think we'd see Starship plants pop up at every launch site and they just ramp it up. So yeah. But I also don't like that way of doing things. I like better, instead of the government saying, hey, we're going to invest in Starship, I'd rather the government say, hey, we want 50 tons of scientific instrument on the moon at these places. And then have people bid contracts and develop from there. I don't want the government saying, hey, Starship, you're looking great. We're going to give you some money for no reason other than we want to give you, like, that's the wrong way to do things. Have it be incentivized, have it be a contract that you can win. And that's where you spur innovation and spur growth. So yeah. Stan R. Hey, Tim, I'm flying out to watch the Crew 1 next week. Is there a good place to watch from? Stan, yes, I've got a video called Where to Watch Rocket Launches in Florida. It's also an article. Just Google Where to Watch Rockets in Florida. You'll see my recommendations. Crew 1 might be pretty busy. Be very careful. Please be socially distant and don't fly to somewhere and then be in giant crowds of people, please, and then fly home. That's exactly the types of things that help spread COVID. We're having some of the worst peaks. We are at peak ever. I was down there in May freaking out. Like, you don't need to freak out, but just please be socially distant. I don't want to see that bridge covered again like it was for DM2. But yeah, I've got some recommendations. Titusville, Jetty Park. Just the beach is great. Honestly, the beach is great. But yeah, be responsible, please. Wear a mask and wash your hands often. And please just don't be in highly crowded places. You know, if you go to a restaurant or bar, please be outside, keep your distance, and be smart. Act like you have bad breath. If everyone just acts like they have terrible breath, you know, then just shy away. Yeah, there you go. There's my tips. So, all right, everybody, that's going to do it for me. I have been streaming for way too long, and I'm ready to get out of here. My throat hurts. I'm going to get this stupid video ready to go live for you guys as soon as possible. Thank you so much for watching. Again, if you want to help me do what I do, consider becoming a Patreon supporter by going to patreon.com/everydayastronaut, and we'll maybe see you guys in the Discord channel. That'd be awesome. But yeah, other than that, stay tuned for this video. Make sure you have the bell so you know as soon as it comes out and you watch it, sit down and you can just engage and just be enveloped by information. So yeah, thank you guys so much for hanging out. You guys are awesome. That's going to do it for me. I'm Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut, bringing space down to Earth for everyday people. Bye, everybody.